So you need some people to start working those copper mines and iron mines, get yourself those fat paychecks. Look no further. We'll go ahead and figure out how to get some recruits early on in Kenshi. Let's go. So are there a lot of reasons why you'd actually want to get recruits early on in Kenshi? From the fact that a lot of the stuff that you need to automate early on is going to need a lot of bodies to be thrown at, like those manual stone refineries or those manual iron plate refineries. So you're really going to need a lot of people, even if you just want to do something simple like gathering additional iron and copper to sell to vendors to actually get some more money to get some early on armor and other building materials you need to start a base. So where do you actually go ahead and find a lot of these people that you need to recruit? Well, oddly enough, you're going to need to find usually bars, and in the later case, if you're on the United City side of things, you need to actually go to the slave towns and actually go ahead and recruit from there. So, where do you actually find these little two things? Well, generally, bars are going to be inside most major settlements and most way stations. If you do not know where to actually find a lot of these major towns or way stations or things like that, you can generally just go ahead and walk around the world and you will find them passively. Or you can look online for a nice map that actually showcases everything. Or if you want to keep it all in-game, there are ways that you can actually just go ahead and purchase maps, like from the map vendors in Squin. So let's go over there real quickly and see what I'm actually talking about. So over here in Squin, we're actually over here at the Adventurer's Travel Gear shop. And this person tends to actually have quite a bit of maps that actually detail a variety of locations throughout the world. So we have a map of Vane here. We have the one of the United Cities extended territories. And there are also ones of border zones and swamps. Now, this is not a comprehensive list. It actually rotates out the amount of maps there are, because there are a lot of zones within this game that actually have their own unique maps, and they're all not going to be available right at the get. So I recommend just going ahead, purchasing a lot of these maps, just because early on, you're not going to know where a lot of these locations are innately, so having a good location of where there are is pretty good. So you just purchase them, right-click them, that allows you to learn it, and then they pop up on your map. You can see around these little green boxes detail where these new locations are. So you see that I got new areas, Drifter's Rest, Clown Steady, the Market, Catcoon, Morn. And then we also have some of the hybrid territories and the swamp territories that just kind of detail a lot of the other stuff. We also have a way station down here and a slave farm. And then we also have one of the major settlements for the United Cities here, Show-Batime. So that's one way you can actually figure out where a lot of these major towns are and way stations that you can use to actually go ahead and find some of these potential recruits. Now, say that you found yourself in a nice, fabulous bar and you want to go ahead and start recruiting these people. Well, what do? Easiest thing to do to go ahead and recruit them is to go ahead and search around the bar. Those that have these double bubble icons appear generally are going to be the ones that you're going to be able to recruit. Now, you can take a look at their stats right here if you want to get an idea of how good they are or if they're what you need. But generally, there are a lot of stats in this game that are not immediately displayed in that little quick thing. So you're generally going to have to talk to them and they can give you a little bit of idea of what their background is, and they may even tell you what skills they specialize in. So for example, farmers will tell you that they're actually excellent at farming. But the issue is that if you get one of these people that have an elevated skill in X, Y, or Z thing, they tend to come with a premium. So how the actual recruit stat goes is that there's usually the absolute cheapest recruits that have 0 skill. Those are usually just the generic recruits that you can find that are usually around 3,000 cats. However, there are these slim chances that you actually find recruits that are free, because they're usually unique ones that have unique backstory and unique dialogue sometimes, or they may just be random ones that you find out in the world. There actually are random recruits that do wander around the map, not in bars or any of those other previously mentioned locations, that can be recruited in very rare but particular circumstances. And again, for these more advanced recruits, you're going to need upwards of more money. You know, there's potential that some of these recruits are going to ask you for 6,000 or more cats to actually recruit them. So over here, we go through these little dialogue options here, and they tell you about their background. And you can see that for this character right here, they're an engineer. They're going to be building things quite well. They're going to start off with an elevated engineering skill, meaning they can build faster. However, they're charging 6,000 cats to go ahead and recruit them. Now, you don't have to take the deal right away. You can just say no thanks, and they may still stay there. They may roam around. But either way, now you know where there's an engineer recruit, and you can go ahead and use that future. Here's another example of a recruit that is quite excellent in stats. As you can see over here, they have 25 attack, 23 defense, 21 strengths, so fairly high stats for a brand new recruit. But because of that, their actual price here is going to be 7,500 cats to actually recruit this. So just be aware, not all recruits are equal, and not all of them are as cheap as 3,000 cats. but go around, shop for them, and you will eventually find some cheap warriors that you can use early on. Those are the best ones to use just for beginning, although if you're seeing that you're actually dying a lot in fights, there is no actual penalty for getting these extra recruits. They may help you out fighting, and that actually may save you a lot of time and headache in the long run. Now, what happens if you actually manage to recruit every single one of these characters inside a bar? Do they actually replenish after a while? And from what I understand, in the base game, that is not really a thing. Once you've recruited all these people inside a bar, that is it. I am not sure if the stats or how many people actually spawn inside of a bar are manipulated by the squad size multiplier and the global population. So say if you jack this up all the way to ×4 and there's a lot of people inside a town, does that actually mean that there's going to be a lot more recruits? I'm not quite sure. From what I understand, there is quite a lot of recruits in this neck of the woods. So that may actually contribute to the number of recruits that you can actually go in here. But say if you actually do run out of recruits or they all perish inside a bar, well, what do? Generally, you just go find another location, and that's where you're going to get some more recruits. Or in the extreme circumstance, you can just go ahead and try to import the save, and that may actually replenish all the characters inside a bar. Another thing to know about the recruits that you get inside these bars is that they're usually going to be fairly localized in the sense that if you go to a Shek territory, a lot of the recruits inside of the bar are going to be Shek-oriented. And it's not a guaranteed thing, but generally, if you're going to go to an ethnic city, you're going to get ethnic recruits. Same thing if you go to human territories, you're going to find a lot of humans. Go to any other territory, probably just going to find a lot of humans, because there's really only Hivers, humans, and Shek. There are rare chances which you actually get skeletons, but those are more likely to be found in something like the major city inside the Deadlands, or the major city found up north. I don't really want to give the spoiler of what these names of these major cities are, but it's right here, and generally there is going to be quite a few skeleton recruits there as well. Another thing to note too is that if you try to attempt to recruit humans from this territory, in the Okrins territory with the Okrinites, make sure that you're also human yourself, or at least have a human in your party, because they will attack other non-human races on site. So beyond bars, where is there an actual other places to go ahead and recruit people? Well, generally there's going to be a few other places that you can try to recruit. One potential area is to go ahead inside a lot of these police or prison headquarters and try to go ahead and free or liberate a lot of these people in here. Liberation, quote unquote, where you free them from a cage of some sort or a prisoner pole or something like that. You can actually go ahead and get a lot of these people recruited out of prison, and sometimes they may join you, in fact. And it's just like buying an animal. You go ahead and just click on what you want to buy, or free them out, and they may come towards you. A thing to know about this too is that generally these hungry bandits only have a small chance of actually being recruited. Now, those that naturally spawn inside prisons or spawn inside slave shops without being put in there from being beaten up by the guards tend to have a higher recruitment chance. A hungry bandit like this that spawned out in the world and then got captured actually has a lower chance of recruitment. And I'm not sure what the actual percentage rate is, but it's not very high. You'll actually end up spending more trying to recruit people through the prisoner/slave method than you would any other method, unless you're buying unique, expensive recruits. So more or less, trying to recruit from prisons/slavery is a bit more expensive than any other method. But you can see, because I recruited this person or freed them from the prison, they've now decided to join me, and now I can go ahead and do with them as I see fit. Now, one unique quirk about this is that they spawn in as the name Hungry Bandit. So the only way you can actually change this is by going to a plastic surgeon, who will then go ahead and change up the appearance of this character, and then you can also change the name. So let's go ahead and do that real quickly. An easy place to find a lot of these plastic surgeons is generally inside things like way stations. Some major cities might have them, but generally way stations are the sure bet way to actually find these plastic surgeons. Now, to find out which one's a plastic surgeon, just go ahead and click around the bar, and eventually you'll be able to find one. They usually have a dialogue box here that tells you that you can actually interact with them. So here you can find one here with a unique trader's outfit with the glasses, and that generally is indicative of a plastic surgeon. And they'll go ahead and allow you to go ahead and change up your appearance, all for 200 cats. But say if I wanted to change his name to something like Boof, that is now an option now that I'm inside this menu here, and I can also change up a lot of their appearance fixtures, frame, posture, things like that. And then boom, now they're a bit more of a unique recruit that is more in my style. Now, say if none of these are an option for you, there is no more recruits in bars, there's no recruits in the prisoners, there is no recruits in the slave pens. Well, what is there to do beyond that to try to get some more recruits? Well, easiest thing to do would be go ahead and tempt people into fighting you inside these actual towers themselves, or fighting near towns. So, for example, over here, there is a bunch of starving bandits over here that could potentially become my recruits. However, they need to be thrown in prison first before that can happen. So, easiest thing I can do is go over here and try to instigate a fight. a lot of the time starving bandits, dust bandits, and other sort of bandit factions will automatically attack you on site or through a unique dialogue exchange. And when that happens, you can just go ahead and run back to the town and start up a fight. And generally, you don't have to actually fight them. The guards will fight them and then throw them into prison. That's what it actually commits the crime, and that's what actually gets them bounty. So you can see in this case, I went ahead and attacked them unprovoked, and now I'm leading them back to the town where the guards can go ahead and start beating them up. I can see the guards just start running out of the gate, and now they're going to head and start chopping up all of these people. Now, downside, this may not be guaranteed all the time, but it is an easy way to go ahead and get a lot of these recruits on your side. So you can see, now they're picking them up and going ahead and throwing them into prison. And you can see, once they all get healed up here and are no longer knocked unconscious, these are now able to actually be recruited once you actually pay for the bounty and once they actually wake up. I'd recommend waiting until they're actually not in a recovery coma. As you can see, this person is technically unconscious right now, so they wouldn't be able to rejoin you immediately upon buying their freedom. So wait a little bit and then buy their freedom. So that's one way you can go ahead and get yourself some more recruits. You never appreciate how large the world of Kenshi is until you have to walk across it, and it takes you 40 minutes just for a video to explain how to recruit. But either way, we're over here down in the nice, lovely United States territories. You can tell because there's just a lot of slavers and a lot of people trying to kill you, so not the most friendly of places. But there's a nice little recruit here method. They can actually go ahead and get more, actually really almost an infinite amount of recruits in this game if you have the patience and enough cash to actually go ahead and do this. And this is the slave exploit. So really how you do it is that you go ahead, you try to find someone who is unconscious, or you can go ahead and stealthily knock them unconscious without them seeing you whatsoever. You pick them up, and then you deposit them inside a slave shop. Make sure not to actually sell them, drop them in a cage, or do anything to actually make them think that you do anything. You just pick up an unconscious person, and then you drop them off while still unconscious, and then boom, you go ahead, pick them up from slavery, and then you can buy their freedom, and they have a small chance of actually joining you. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that actually looks like here. So we went ahead and found ourselves a nice unconscious outlaw farmer here. You can tell it's unconscious because he says, well, unconscious. First things first, we got to go ahead and pick him up. Since he's unconscious, he will not remember this at all, and he won't feel betrayed, because that's the main thing. If they figure out that you actually did kidnap him or anything like that, they will not actually join you whatsoever. So you can see, we're over here at a nice lovely slave shop. We got ourselves a nice unconscious outlaw farmer here. We're going to head and drop him off here. And what's going to happen is that these slavers are then going to head and deposit this outlaw farmer either into a cage or put him into slavery. One of the two options, something like that's going to happen. They're slowly going to heal him, they're slowly going to put him into a cage, take off his clothing, do things like that. It's going to take a little bit of time. But you can see that our guy in this case is unconscious because he was damaged, so he's not really an ideal candidate to recruit right now because he will not go through that process of trying to join you until he wakes up, which may bug out or not. But essentially, once you go in here, you go talk to the slaver here, you buy the slave, and you then pay a price. But usually trying to actually recruit a slave through this method is considered very expensive and is generally not recommended till mid to late game when you start actually running out of recruits in bars, or you want a particular recruit of a particular race, or you found some other high-level character who is unassociated with a faction that you like that is sold into slavery. There's also another means to actually go ahead and recruit these people. So again, go ahead and buy whatever character is conscious, and they may have a small chance of joining you. Again, lower chance of joining you if you had to put them into slavery or they were captured and put into slavery as opposed to already being slaves when the game started up. So you get ahead and buy them up, and you can see that some of these dudes don't immediately join you. That happens sometimes. I'd also recommend putting your character into hold/passive status over here. I can see that is on this side. The reason why you want to do this is because sometimes the slaves that you buy might do criminal activities like steal or get into fights with guards. So if that happens, you're going to want to go ahead and put yourself into hold/passive status so that your character doesn't join them or try to protect them, which then immediately puts you in a state of committing a crime, which then causes your whole group to then potentially raise the alarm, get thrown in prison, and cause a huge fight, or potentially even get hostile with a faction, which is not really something you want to do if you're just trying to get recruits. So go ahead, and now that your recruits are now with you, they actually follow you similar to that of like an ally. So you can usually tell because they are marked as a green icon on the map. So to actually get them to make that final decision whether or not to join you, you have to move a decent bit outside the city where they then will make that decision of whether or not to join you. And there's a varying chance of they'll actually joining you depending on their personality. Because there are some personality types that NPCs can spawn in with that make them completely unable to be befriended or to actually recruit.
I can see that in this case, this person has managed to stay with us or actually repay us for this. So they actually are now inside our group, and we can go ahead and use them as see fit. I can see Inu now also made that decision as well. However, the hybrid did not actually want to make that decision. So we got 2 recruits out of the, I think, 4 that we actually initially brought in there. So you can see that is the slaver exploit. We didn't necessarily show it in full detail because our character was unconscious, but it's essentially the same process that you would use over and over again. Now, generally, you can actually tell when that slaver exploit fails because when you free them, they'll say something like, "Why would I repay you for this? You're the one that put me in here." Generally, if you get a dialogue option like that, that means you failed to successfully knock them unconscious when you put them initially into slavery. So that means you just got to go ahead, try to find someone else, knock them unconscious without being seen, and then take them to that slave shop. Generally, this is going to be easier with someone who is very high in stealth and assassination skills. Those are the 2 relevant skills. But once you try those 2 things, that is one way to go ahead and get yourself a bunch of recruits. Alright guys, so I think it's going to be everything when it comes to actually going ahead and recruiting in Kenshi. If you found this guide to be very helpful, feel free to leave a comment down below expressing your gratitude or even recommending additional guides to do in the future. But other than that guys, I want to thank you all for joining me this fine, fabulous evening. And just go ahead and follow whatever platform is your favorite. We're on the YouTube and Twitch. We live stream to both platforms, with YouTube having join exclusive members, exclusive emotes, as well as just having a nice archive of streams to go ahead and view at your viewing pleasure. Beyond that, there's also plenty of other guides for a variety of other games you can go ahead and view on this channel as well. Beyond that, there's Twitter and Discord if you want to get notified whenever I go live, whenever I post videos, or join the community and have fun with us. But beyond that, guys, I want to thank you all for joining me today, and go ahead, go forth, and get some more Iron Slaves.